Normally, Fridays are reserved for, as we like to say around these parts, let's get ready to grumble with Brian Burke. But talking to Berkey this morning, I shouldn't say talking to Berkey, because while Berkey may be around, his voice has left him. He's been fighting something going back to the weekend, so he could barely. And you know Brian, he's got like the big booming pipes and like speaking rough. Tell it like it is. Berkey's voice is not complying. So giving Berkey the week off. He'll return next week. By the way, his son from the Department of Player Safety from the NHL, Patrick Burke, will join me here on Monday. In the meantime, Jay Rosehill is going to stop. We figured if we couldn't get Berkey, we'll just get one of his favorite players, and that's Jay Rosehill. Former Maple Leaf, former Philadelphia Flyer, now part of Leafs Morning Take, along with Nick Alberga and producer Vic, and occasionally producer Zach, and everybody else who can pitch in around these parts. So Jay Rosehill is going to stop by in about 15 minutes. So we're going to talk about a couple of things. Oh, and by the way, thanks for putting up with me yesterday when the power kept flickering on and off here in the broadcast center here. That is my basement on the border of Stouffville and Uxbridge. So we're going to get to Rosehill in a couple of seconds. We'll talk about the Jalen Chatfield situation, which we're going to do yesterday. And I think it still bears discussion because there's a couple of things I want to point out about it. And I think Rosie does as well. And we'll also talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. No Jake McCabe, no David Kampf. Big game tomorrow against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Looking to cement that first spot in the Atlantic because you don't want a piece of Florida and you don't want a piece of Tampa, maybe more specifically Tampa, in the first round of the playoffs. But let me start the show off this way. So I started in media very accidentally. It's a very accidental career. Maybe you've heard me talk about it before, but I started in 1994. And, you know, I've always sort of been in and around the sports space. Started at the Fan 590 in Toronto. This is when it was owned by Telemedia. This is when it was in downtown Toronto in the Yonge and Eglinton area. And that's where I started and really started to do it full time. Probably around 2001. And I can tell you honestly, in covering hockey for as long as I have, and working in as many places as I have, covering hockey, I can be sure of one thing. I can be sure of one thing only. There is one thing that I know 100% is true, was true, and will always be true about hockey. And it's this. You can't lie to players. Players know. Players know everything. Players know who belongs on a team. Players know who doesn't belong on a team. Players know who's performing up to a certain level. Players know who doesn't belong on a team or on a line or in a place. You can't lie to players. Players know. And that's why when you get a piece of video, the likes of which the Rochester Americans put out today on social, it's really interesting because it is raw emotion and feeling from players on the Rochester Americans. Now, let me couch this one specific way. After the NHL trade deadline, you get 4 call-ups. And what a lot of teams and a lot of players will tell you is when you're a team that's out of the playoffs, sometimes there's a hierarchy of who franchises deem as more valuable than others based on who they call up when. Now, if you don't believe me, and you think that whether it's Jack Rathbone or Brett Murray, who should have been called up before Noah Ostlund, who you've heard us talk about here on this show, you've seen me write about in the Sheet blog as well. If you don't think that players in that room believe that Noah Ostlund should have already been called up, and I do want to preface one thing here. Yes, I'm the guy that says the Buffalo Sabres have rushed their prospects to the NHL too quickly. That is the story of the Buffalo Sabres, is inexperience. But it's not just inexperience on the ice. Spend that on another show where the other areas of inexperience are. This is about who gets the call-up and gets the NHL taste at the end of the season. You're going to hear from Rochester Americans head coach Michael Leone, who's had an outstanding season with Rochester. They just clinched a playoff spot. One of the best teams in the American Hockey League. They might win the whole thing, folks. They might. Here's Michael Leone after Rochester's practice announcing that Noah Ostland is getting the call to go to Rochester. And one thing I want you to listen to specifically in this video is listen to what the players are saying. And always remind yourself, you can't lie to players. Have a look. Have a listen.
One more thing. Noah's coming up.
Sorry, that would have been not after practice, but after a clinching game. But you can hear what the players are saying there. It's about time. It's about time. What do you think that means? Players know this guy should have got the taste earlier than he's getting now. He's been that good for the Rochester Americans. He's just American Hockey League Player of the Week. It's about time. Again, I know I got some people on social media saying, like, hang on a second, you can't have it both ways. You can't say they got to keep the prospects and over-ripen them in the American Hockey League and then complain when a player gets called up. I'm not complaining about a player getting called up. All I'm saying is listen to the players in the Rochester Americans dressing room saying it's about time. They know this should have happened sooner than it has. But nonetheless, congratulations. It looks like he'll be playing with Sam Lafferty and Beck Mallenstein. We'll see how that works out. And playing power play 2, I believe they have him net front, which I don't believe is how they use him in Rochester. But nonetheless, congratulations to Noah Ostland, poised to make his NHL debut. Again, you've heard me talk about before. If you're a Buffalo Sabres fan, that is a reason to get excited. That guy is that good. Happy to see him come up. Did I clear that up okay, Zach? Did you think I made my point all right on that one? I'm not saying that, oh, look at that, you can't have it both ways, Marek. Yeah, don't rush players, but then complain when they bring it. You can't have it. I get that. This is about the hierarchy of the – I'm going to ask Rosehill about this, the hierarchy of the call-up from the American League. Because this is the fourth call-up. Like, he is the last call-up for the Buffalo Sabres this year. And you hear the Rochester players saying, like, it's about time. About time this guy got called up.
Yeah, I think you cleared it up well. I mean, I was in your camp when we initially started talking about it, like, okay, is this guy going to get the call? When's that going to come? Why hasn't he yet? Understanding what you were talking about when we were kind of complaining ourselves that he hadn't got the call up, but I did see some pushback online. I was kind of like, I don't know if this is like that.
It's understandable.
I think you got it. Yeah,
it's understandable.
I think you cleared it up.
Hopefully that makes things a little more clear here on the program. Okay, speaking of the program, coming up on the show today, glad to have you aboard. Thanks so much for stopping by, whether you're in the chat, watching on YouTube, or on your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate your attention for the hour or so that Zach and myself sort of ramble. Coming up on the program today, time for Daily Outlines, presented by FanDuel, North America's #1 sportsbook app provider. Daily Outlines, powered by FanDuel. Make every moment more with North America's #1 sportsbook. And coming up on the program today, we have a lot to get to with Jay Rosehill. That is our guest of the day. You watch him on Leafs Morning Take. You've watched him ply his trade in the NHL before. You know, the one thing about Friday programs is you can get a chance to have a look back on the week that was. And one of the flashpoint moments that we can get probably a strong opinion from Jay Rosehill on, considering this is, again, how he plied his trade, is the Jalen Chatfield situation, the Jalen Chatfield fight. In one of the more, this is the fight with Connor McMichael, one of the more livelier games we've seen this week. Afterwards, I think all of us were saying, can we see Washington and Carolina in the playoffs, please? So Rosie's going to stop by here in about 5 or 6 minutes' time. Very much looking forward to that. And we'll talk about Chatfield-McMichael. And we'll talk about, on the program today, the Great 8 Chase. There's a few things I want to get in here. Our friends at FanDuel have some interesting odds for a number of different scenarios here with Alexander Ovechkin. Listen, Washington's at home, man. Like, Washington's playing in Capital One here, and Alex Ovechkin is 3 goals away. And if you have a look at the Chicago Blackhawks blue line, it's not exactly, Robinson and Savard and Lidstrom, Rafalski. Like, there's a lot of young kids on that back end. I don't think I'd put it past Ovechkin to break the record tonight. Would you? And when you look at the Chicago Blackhawks and who they have on the back end and the nature of the season that it's been in Chicago and the fact that Ovechkin would love to break this thing at home, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a hat trick tonight. Would be a great way to do it in front of your fans as well. We should talk about offer sheets because why not? It's always a fertile ground when we talk about offer sheets here on the program. And a quick little update on CHL playoffs as some teams advance and some teams say bye-bye for the season. And I don't know when we're going to give it away, but we're going to give away one of these Crispies. And we got the Crispy inbox coming up a little bit later on. And a question, I believe today's question, Zach, revolves around managers or people in the NHL playing practical jokes on one another.
Yeah. Internal jokes on each other, whether it's teams and managers and players playing jokes on each other, or if it is teams playing jokes on the league. That's kind of what I saw the question, and I was like, if there's somebody who's going to have a good answer to this, it's you, Jeff Marek. So I want to hear from you.
There's one, although you know what? One of my favorite stories was I remember asking Colby Armstrong about this, about trade deadline, and he would say, what we used to do to fuck around with the media is we'd be having practice on trade deadline, and like we just deliberately just skate off the ice, like go I don't know, go have a squirt or something, or go to the room, just say, oh, Colby Armstrong has left the ice, Nils Hagman has just left the ice, like just to get everybody going, like, have they been told that they'll be traded? I live for stuff like that, and there's a lot of stuff like that, but there is one story that I will tell coming up a little bit later on, and it does involve, just to be blunt, it involves general managers getting drunk and doing dumb stuff and being told by the league to stop. How about that? So look forward to that story. Like, honestly, you will shake your head when I tell you the story, and then part of you will go like, oh yeah, I can see that. Like, I can see it. Like, we've made the distinction before here on this show. You and I have had this chat about dumb versus hockey dumb, and we've all... Anyone who's played hockey knows, like, I don't know how this guy, like, finds a pillow at the end of the day. One of my favorite stories, there is a player who used to play in the NHL whose nickname was Two People, which to this day, after I told my youngest son this story, he calls his friends now and he wants to insult them, Two People. His nickname was Two People because the captain of his team, like, this is one of those guys, like, lovable guys, everybody loves him, great guy, team guy and all that, but not going to crack the atom anytime soon. So not putting a man on the moon here, his nickname became Two People because as the captain told everybody on the team, one person can't be that effing stupid. So his nickname became Two People. Hey, Two People, pass the tape. Hey, Two People, who are we playing this weekend? Honestly, it's an awesome nickname. And tell me you're not going to steal that. And everybody in the chat, feel free to steal that nickname for the special person who you think is really, really dumb in your life. Just start calling them Two People. And when they ask you why, just say, because one person can't be that effing dumb. That's why I'm calling you Two People.
That's what I want to hear Rosie say to Alberga when they open the show on Monday.
I'm going to lobby for it. And hopefully Nick will not have watched or listened to this program, so he won't expect it. And Rosie can just start calling. Maybe this can be Alberga's nickname. Like, Nick doesn't really have a nickname, right?
The Golden Muzzy, I think, is what he tries to run by. But I think
you can't give yourself your own nickname.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, how many times have you seen one of your buddies try to give themselves a nickname? Like, you can't. Like, nicknames are handed out by your peers, not by you. So maybe we can somehow get Rosie to get on board and start calling Nick Two People. What's up, Two People? How about that Columbus game on Saturday? How about the McCabe injury?
Yeah,
Two
we'll
people?
see. Yeah. The thing is, too, there, Nick's not going to be able to fight back because what's he going to do? Fight Rosie? Rosie's going to beat the wheels off him.
Dude, that's the best thing in the world. I'll tell you. Can I have a couple seconds to tell a quick story about my buddy Sean?
Rosie's lined up here if you want him. He might enjoy the story as well.
Okay, Rosie, let's get Rosie, and I'll tell a quick story. So Jay Rosehill joins me here, former Maple Leaf, Philadelphia Flyer, legendary, robust hockey player, now one half of the Leafs Morning Take show. So we're just talking about nicknames for a second ago, and one of my favorites in the NHL, and I'm protecting identities here, although maybe you've heard this story before. This is one of these guys. The only hint that I'll give is he was a defenseman in the 90s, and the captain of his team started calling him Two People out of nowhere. Hey, Two People, pass me the tape. Hey, Two People, who are we playing this weekend? Hey, Two People, what time is it? And the captain of his team explained to the rest of the squad why his nickname was Two People. He said, because one person can't be that effing stupid. So I'm calling him Two People. And that nickname stuck.
Did this guy know why his nickname was Two People or no?
I believe even though he wasn't the smartest guy in the world, I think he probably caught on to it after a while. I just think it's a great nickname. And just before he came on, we were sort of lobbying that, Rosie, you're probably the one guy that can maybe make that stick with Alberga. That maybe his nickname could be Two People, like Nick Two People Alberga, and maybe we can get that one grooving. And Philly, what's that?
We should have got that going on night one of our nation vacation down in Nashville.
I know.
He lost his marbles for a few minutes there, so it would have been a good time to bring it out.
What was he a nice bunch of guys? Was he a nice bunch of guys in Nashville?
He was a few people. It took a few people to get through to him that night. It was a classic first night of vacation. He full pinned her, and it was funny. I'm joking. All in all, it was a hell of a good vacation, and we'll think of something to stick with Alberga. Right. I think he watched your show, so he'll know where it came from.
Okay, Dan, that was my one hope that he wouldn't be paying attention. And
I was worried when I clued on, or I teed onto the show, and I heard what you guys were talking about. I thought I was getting set up on what you were talking about. Why you brought me
I wanted to share a story with you here. So Philly was saying, like, yeah, if anyone's gonna stick a nickname on Alberga, it's gonna be you, because no one's gonna, like, what's Alberga gonna do? Like, Jay, like, seriously, like, nothing to you. And I was saying a good buddy of mine just lives up the street, been buddies forever. His name's Sean Pearson. So he had 7 fights at welterweight in UFC. Our kids play hockey together. He's a great guy. We just hang all the time. He's a wonderful dude. And there's one of the great stories about him in our town was playing softball. I think he slid into third really hard. And so someone on the other team just started beaking at him, like, you blah, 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 and back and forth. And Sean's like, if you want, okay, and the guy's like, after the game, after the 9th inning, you and me in the parking lot. And Sean's like, okay, that's cool. He goes, and I would love it to be able to say this line. He goes, okay, that's cool, but I'm going to tell you one thing. My name is Sean Pearson, and right now Google is your best friend. Just like the idea of being able to say Google is your best friend. Sure enough, the guy came and apologized afterward. Oh, a big misunderstanding and blah, blah. But just to be able, Rosie, to say, my name is so-and-so and Google is your best friend right now, it's got to be one of the most baller lines I've ever heard in my life. Anyhow.
As calm as could be too. Those MMA guys that used to be like the boxers and stuff like that, it was always not that I mix it up with that stuff too much, but when you're young and dumb and in and out of the bars and you got buddies with you, my nightmare was always to meet up outside with some skinny little fella who's, you miss the cauliflower ears and he just tunes your wagon outside in the parking lot. But
I'll tell you what,
so you don't mess around. You don't know these days, do you?
You don't know. Well, it's funny too, because Pierce was playing. God, this goes back years. They were playing him and Sean Thornton. We're playing in a summer league in Whitby together. And so Pearson's out there, and in our area, he was national wrestling champion and then, MMA fighter. Everyone knows him. So he's playing, and one guy just splashes him on the glass. I'm going to take a run at the UFC guy. And so he takes a run at Pierce, and Thornton comes in and wraps the guy. Now, I do have to add one more story. The guy that did that went on to become an official. So I just going to bracket that for a second. And like Thornton tuned him up. And Pearson told me, he said, listen, I was in the dressing room after and I went to him like, hey, Thordy, like, thanks, but I can kind of handle myself. Like, this is what I do for a living. And in one of Sean Thornton's great lines of all time, he goes, hey, Sean, like, listen, dude, like on the ice, that's my fight. We're going to the bar now. If there's trouble, it's your fight. And that's
smart.
That's a distinction. Anyway, speaking of scraps, this is a long-winded introduction here. I know I'm getting wordy. What did you make of Chatfield-McMichael?
I didn't like it. I don't like it. There's nothing about it that I liked. It's unnecessary. I can't believe some people online are saying, well, I don't think he really meant to do it. I mean, we're all watching the same video, right? He plants an edge, he grabs a hold, he gets his center of gravity, and he just hauls off and tosses him. And I would not be surprised if he had some MMA background in the summertime, something like that. It's a leg
judo
sweep
throw.
or
It's a judo throw. Yeah, it's a judo throw.
Totally. And I mean, you're up on your skates, which is totally weird and makes the balance of everything different. You got no helmets on, which they come off in fights quite often. You usually want to get them off. And, you know, I think I tweeted, usually in a hockey fight, the worst that comes out of it is a bloody nose or a fat lip, like whoop-de-doo, right? You start hauling off with that kind of force, tossing guys around and leg sweep and hip toss and judo throws on the ice. Like it's as close to getting a cracked skull as you're going to get in a hockey fight. Why would you allow it? Why would you champion it? Why would you think that's part of it? It's not. Go watch the most recent 1,000 hockey fights. You're not going to see that for good reason. It's already an unwritten rule on how those things go, and that judo tossing a guy with no helmet on with skates has nothing to do with it.
Would you have lobbied for a suspension? Like, would you have agreed, even just a 1-game suspension? Would it go that far for you?
I'm always the guy that doesn't really feel like I love when the league needs to step in. I mean, are you telling me that all the noise that toss made, Chatfield didn't hear about it and think, gulp, I am not going to do that again? You know, it was pretty unanimous across the board, as unanimous as the internet can get, that's no bueno in the National Hockey League. So I don't really know what suspending him is going to do to further it. And they have to justify it as well. Like, it just looks weird for them. Okay, you're allowing them to bare knuckle punch each other in the face, but this guy throws him down and that's bad. Where's the line on throwing them down? It's hard for the NHL to justify, but I think the eye test, and for people that know hockey, you look at that and you just go, buddy, no longer. And I'm sure he's gotten that message by today.
You know, so I started the show off by saying, you know, Jay, in all my time covering hockey, I can say that I'm 100% certain of only one thing. I've only learned one thing, and that is you can't lie to players. Players know who belongs. Players know what's right. Players know what's wrong. That's why generally when it comes to things that happen on the ice, like, I'll always defer to players. Like, players know. And that's why I looked at this one, and, you know, I kind of went to bed that night. I'm like, doesn't feel right. I don't like it. If this is a direction that fighting is going now in the NHL, I'm not a fan of it. And I woke up in the morning and I thought, you know what? You know, George Parros is the one ruling on this. And this is how George Parros' career ended, in that fight with Colton Orr, right? Where he got spun and he, you know, hit his head on the ice. Like, that was the end of his career. Plus, you have players in the Department of Player Safety, Stefan Quintal. You have Ryan Getzlaff, who wasn't, even though he was a skilled player, wasn't shy about chucking him every now and then. Like, these guys understand fights. Oh, here we go. Well, this is, you know, unfortunate for George Parros. This is how his career ended, with the scrap where he hits his head on the ice. My thought was, and here we go. Here's Colton Orr and Parros, and bam, like, that was it. That was the end of the career. My thought was, these guys, more than anybody else, specifically Parros, is sensitive to this and understands sort of what's cool in a fight and what's not cool in a fight, and what should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed. I guess what I'm winking at here, Jay, is the code. And if they think that that's okay, I don't know that I should come in and say, as someone who never played in the NHL, no, I think you're wrong. And that's why I looked at that, and there was no suspension. I was like, if anyone's going to be sensitive to this, it's going to be George Peros, because that's how his career ended. Does that resonate with you at all?
I get what you're saying, but with George Peros being where he is, there's a huge machine called the NHL that's behind him. It's not necessarily George Peros just firing off what he thinks and what he identifies with. This is bad, this is bad. Oh, that happened to me, so I'm going to hammer down that guy. I didn't really experience that, so that's fine with me. You kind of got to go by the rule book, and you got to have a pretty detailed explanation of why you're suspending a guy. I bet you any amount of money, if you're sitting at a table having a beer in a tavern with George Peros and that fight is on, he sees it, he'll say, do not like that. I don't like that one bit. I don't think that the fact that he didn't suspend him means that the league's okay with it. In my mind, I think that the social pressure of it and everything you saw online, Chatfield will probably get the message, probably won't do that again. I also don't want it to become a theme in the NHL where guys are bringing this MMA shit into hockey fights. It's just, we've been doing it for 100 years. There's a way you do it. Like you said, revert to players. Is this allowed or is this not? I don't know how many fights that guy's been in. I know it's not a ton. Oftentimes guys want to get out of a fight and they're like, hey, I've had enough. I want out of this situation. Usually they slip on the old banana peel and, down I go all of a sudden and fight's over. He decided to take a more aggressive route to that by tossing him. Would he do it again? I really doubt it. Are we going to see that become a theme? I also really doubt it. And the fact that the league didn't clamp down, I don't read that as they think it's okay and they're fine with it. I really don't. I just don't think they wanted to get into the weeds trying to provide an explanation on what's allowed in a hockey fight, as it is kind of a gray area, right? It's kind of this code, this unwritten rules. It's an unwritten rule. You don't judo toss a guy over your hip like that with no helmet on. I get that's odd for people because you're allowed to punch them in the face. It's a different animal and it's hard to explain sometimes, but like you said, revert to the guys that have done it. It's pretty black and white to them.
So here's something that, as a matter, I just had a conversation about this with a coach this morning. So I do wonder, with the prevalence of MMA training that a lot of guys will do in the off season. I just like last year in the American League, we had that like William Lagesson choke too. So like we're seeing more and more stuff like this, and a lot more guys, whether it's to stay in shape or body awareness or balance, a lot more guys are doing this. Like my I guess sound like a douchey hockey dad here. By 2010, so he's getting recruited by a number of teams, and one of the coaches that I was talking to this morning we're talking about off-season training, and he's like, "Yeah, we do an hour of jiu-jitsu after our skates," and I'm like, "You do?" He's like, "Yeah, we do an hour of jits with the trainer after we skate." I was like, "Well, that's pretty unique." And then I thought to myself, "Well, this stuff is great for body awareness, for balance, for all these types of things, so that makes sense." So maybe, Jay, and we'll get on the Leafs after this point here, maybe it's just inevitable that we do start to see more things like this as more guys understand how to use their bodies like this in a fight.
Yeah, it's a good point. And now that you bring that point up, I mean, I've never done the MMA stuff. I didn't train in that sense. I didn't box or anything like that. But knowing what the sport is and how you mix all the different disciplines into one with the MMA, and there's a million different ways you can train on it. I just think battling in a corner, puck protection, body awareness, your balancing, your edges, all that stuff would translate great. And if a guy starts now and never gets in a hockey fight in his entire life, I still think that would be completely beneficial to him.
Agreed.
Just as far as the body contact and the physicality of the game. It's a good point, though, that if that's going to become more prevalent, like you just said, some 2010s coming up, and everyone who's coming up is going to have grown up with MMA. Yeah. If it does start to become a trend, and you mentioned the chokehold from last year and now this hip toss, you're starting to make me think maybe they should have clamped down on this and said no bueno in our sport. I know for a fact the league, number one thing they don't like is the concussions and trying to deal with those and how the lawyers get involved and what the NFL went through years back with the settlement the check they had to write. And no one's interested in that. And no one's interested in guys getting their heads clanked around. And I like I said, more often than not, a guy has a fat lip after a hockey fight. It's not that conducive to big head injuries, but you start winging guys around with the force that guys can generate these days with how strong they are and all the training they've done. And you start to get into judo and MMA. Maybe it will be a problem. I guess we should watch it and see where it goes. And if it becomes a theme, I don't know if you'd say it's becoming a theme right now, as we were thinking of 2 examples in the last 100 years.
Yeah,
I know. But very, very possible. I mean, there's reason to believe that's the direction it could go. If it does, I would want it clamped down on hard and fast 100%.
Okay, bracket that conversation. Toronto Maple Leafs, they're looking to nail down first place in the Atlantic, which, as we've talked about, coming out of Four Nations, anyone in the Atlantic, like, your number one job is to lock down first place. You do not want to finish second, third. You do not want that matchup. Although, having said that, I don't know, Ottawa, Montreal, they want any piece of, right? Anyway, park that conversation. Where do you see the Maple Leafs right now? Just like wide brush thought, paint with a roller here on this one. Where do you see Toronto at this point of the season?
I think they're hitting their stride in a lot of ways. I think they're well-rounded. I think the deficiencies that they have are no worse than any other teams, and I think they're a lot less than they were in the past. You look at the teams they've gone forward with in the past with high expectations, they had holes galore. And this year, I mean, if you want to talk about their back end, if you want to talk about their depth in the goaltending position, how they're spread out a little better. They have a little bit more depth. You look at, Matthew Nye is coming and hitting his stride. And, if Domi's starting to hit his stride after a tough season, look what John Tavares is doing. And we haven't even really talked about the superstars yet. It kind of annoys me, and I understand why to a degree, when fans won't get excited for where this team is right now. Like you mentioned, leading the Atlantic, they're deep. Look at the last 10 games they've played. They're almost perfect on their Eastern swing, almost perfect on their Western road trip. And fans, and I don't even know if you call them fans, but they'll dive in and they'll pick apart the one point they didn't get against the Sharks, and they'll chalk it up as the reason they're not going anywhere again. It drives me insane. Like, what are you going to do when this team is battling for a wild card spot? If you poo-poo every move they make and everything they do when they're first in the Atlantic, it kind of drives me nuts. And I choose to be high on them right now. They have given you so many reasons to be hopeful for the postseason this past regular season. I know they're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. You just look at them with a magnifying glass and go through them with a fine-tooth comb. I don't think it's fair. I remember feeling that when I played for them. Nothing was ever good enough. You only talked about your shortcomings. It's insane. This team is one of the top teams in the National Hockey League, and they have a lot of boxes checked. I'm riding that wave right now. And if they come up short, then they come up short. Then you reassess and see what they can do in the offseason. But I'm choosing to be high on this team right now.
You mentioned that, like, when you play with the Toronto Maple Leafs, every Maple Leaf person, whether it's a player, whether it's a coach, manager, all of it, maybe you were the same way. They all say the same thing going in and the same thing going out. Oh, yeah, I know what it's like. I'm ready for it. And then on the way out, it's like, I had no idea it was going to be like that. Like, everyone has the exact same thing. Oh, yeah, no, I know what it's like. I know what it's like. And then they go through it, and it's like, holy smokes. Like, you got to grow alligator skin fast, bud.
Yeah, and I imagine it's even worse now with, the social media aspect and the fact that
no, it's made it better.
No,
social media has made everything better. No, it's made everything better.
Okay. Like, you used to worry about like the people that you literally had a laptop and a pen and an outlet and were employed by a news media outlet, and they were kind of your enemy and you're fighting against them. And then everyone's talking at the coffee shop. Fine. But now, I mean, in everyone's pocket is a device connected to the entire world, and anyone can start a little snowball at the top of a hill, roll it down, and see how big it can get. And people love doing that. And no more better example of that than looking at the Toronto Maple Leafs and their following.
I'll tell you what. I always love talking about things that I was wrong about. So here's example 7,492. When John Tavares signed that contract, and there's the pajama pictures and all of that, and everyone had a good laugh. When Tavares signed that contract, I thought, okay, good deal. If you're Kyle Dubas, how do you say no when Tavares is essentially saying, I'm turning down 14 from San Jose to come here? I said to myself, this is going to be really good until the last 2 years, and then it's going to look really bad. I could not have been more wrong about that John Tavares contract. What did you think when he signed it? And what do you think now that we're here at the end of this deal and the guy's producing like nobody thought that he would?
Yeah, it's nuts. And I've said it on air, the exact same thing. When he signed that, you almost knew that the last couple of years were going to be a throwaway. Like, that's where guys get bought out. That's where guys get buried. But that's what it takes to give them a term like that with an AAV, with a total amount to get them certain places. You got to give them that, knowing we're going to make hay when the sun shines in the first 5-6 years of that contract. In the last 1 or 2 or whatever the situation is, we know it's going to be bad, but it's what you have to do to get the player on your roster. And everyone thought that unanimously that would be what John Tavares' story was, mainly because his skating isn't like the prettiest in the world. You thought that the game would pass him by more and more every year. He would get a little bit slower. The game would get a little bit faster, and it would just look horrendous. $11 million for what at mid-30s type of player. I mean, he is proving that his hockey IQ is through the roof. He knows where to go and when to go there. He's not too slow for the league. I think he probably looks slower than he actually is, but he knows where to be and where to go. I mean, look at Scott Niedermayer on the back end. He barely had to take a stride. He was one of the greatest skaters. He didn't have to move anywhere because he was always in the right spot. Some guys just have that, and John Tavares is proving that right now. My only problem is he's doing it so well that you think you're going to get him at $5 million. It's just not happening anymore. He's looking at being damn near a 40-goal scorer, and I don't think anyone has another bingo card.
So it's funny too, a lot of the conversation publicly this week around the Toronto Maple Leafs for whatever reason, we had this conversation on Monday, I believe. It's been around the idea, Philly, cover your ears. What offer sheeting Matthew Knies? So if Tavares is going to get paid, Marner is going to get paid. You look what St. Louis did to Edmonton. I know the cap is going up, but still, does that put them in that? Like, will you even entertain that thought? Like, is that something that even enters your mind at this point? The idea of what this offseason could look like between Marner and Tavares, and maybe an offer sheet for Matthew Knies?
Yeah, I've just heard of that being brought up in the last couple of days. I don't like it. I don't know if teams know the cap is going up. Teams know the value of certain players to their organization. I don't know how greasy some GMs want to be and how much they want to rock the boat with offer sheeting other teams' players and what the risk of that is. But I know that when you're talking about the players that you're talking about, Marner, and then we just talked about Tavares and what his value has done in the last couple of months, and Matthew Knies, I think they would move mountains to keep that guy in the Toronto Maple Leafs organization. All of a sudden, the amount that the cap is going up is tiddlywinks compared to what we're talking about now. So it's kind of scary, and I haven't gone down that road yet. I choose to focus on the here and now and cross bridge when you get there. I'm focused on where we're going to finish in the standings and where those guys, who they're going to play in the first round and what they're going to do in the playoffs. But yeah, there's a lot of question marks that are yet to be decided on. And honestly, especially with the big one, that's the Marner contract. I really think, I don't think any of the parties know what's going to happen on either side of the aisle. And I think that their production in the playoffs is going to probably push that one way or the other.
The reason that I think people are talking more about offer sheets, like I always look at look at Lucas Dostal and Mason McTavish in Anaheim. Holy smokes. And, you saw what St. Louis did, obviously, and where the St. Louis Blues are right now. Although, man, you hope that Holloway's injury is not bad. I didn't like the way his body moved last night. I mean, you hope that that's okay. But, I mean, maybe this might be before the salary cap has the massive jump and teams are more insulated and can match offer sheets. I do wonder, Jay, if this might be the one season where we see a bunch more and then all of a sudden there's more of a cushion in the cap and teams say, we're not going to bother because teams are just going to match. That's why I think this summer is perhaps the most intriguing for offer sheets because there's been the precedent set by St. Louis that this can really work. And you don't necessarily, if a team's up against it, you can really push them. And I don't think, but the thing is, Jay, like, this, like one of the great skills you can have now as a manager is managing upwards. And right now, ownership is more involved than ever. And you can be certain that there are owners around the NHL saying to their managers, why can't you do what St. Louis did? So you might not want to do the offer sheet. You might say, I think it's predatory. I don't want to do this to my buddy. And we go fishing in BC and I don't want to do this to Kenny. And like, the whole deal. But you also have owners that are signing your check saying, why can't we do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. And that is a good example of, it bringing success to a team in the St. Louis Blues. But if you look at the Edmonton Oilers and where they were and what they just did and who they offer sheeted, it's depth guys that popped off, right? I mean, usually it's almost
big time
to keep those guys on a roster. Everyone's like, why don't you just keep the same roster that you had when you were winning? Well, because all the guys that are outperforming their contracts need to get that bump. That's the nature of the beast. So with all the other contracts that the Edmonton Oilers have going on in their organization, it was kind of a perfect storm for them to pop in there, little offer sheet, thinking this is going to make it very difficult for them to match. And what you get in return, they thought they could sneak in and grab it. It was kind of a perfect storm. It worked. And obviously those are good players who have helped out the St. Louis Blues organization as they did with the Edmonton Oilers. I just don't think it's going to be a pop off of offer sheets this summer, just based on the fact that one worked. I know.
You got to get the hype machine here. It's going to be 8 offer sheets this summer.
I get that's exciting, and I'm not against them. But if Matthew Nyes is the number one target, I'm hoping that's tempered. I think that guy, I think he's going to be the captain of the Maple Leafs one day. And not to take anything away from Austin Matthews, I understand he's a superstar, but Nyes has got the stuff to be the head of that show. He just seems to have all the right stuff.
Everybody loves offer sheets, Jay, until it's their guy. Offer sheets are great. Look at Carolina. Stick it to Montreal. Yeah, take that, Edmonton. Go get him, Army. Whoa. Our guy. Whoa. Hold on. This is ridiculous. It's only a problem. Only a problem when your bull gets gored. Jay, you're the best. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Maple Leafs and Columbus Blue Jackets tomorrow. We'll check back soon, pal.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate it, man.
Don't forget, what's Alberga's new nickname?
Two people.
There we go.
Because he's that fucking stupid.
I don't think an interview's ever ended better than that with Jay Rosehill. Hey, Philly, that just made my day. So...
That's so good.
That was awesome.
And he
There's your
just
clip.
closed out on his end too. That's so good. I love Rosie so much. That was so good.
Two people. One guy can't be that fucking stupid.
Oh my god, that was so good. That was so
guys.
good.
I love Alberga. I love Rosie. These guys are the best.
Yeah, that one's getting posted for sure. Oh my god.
That was awesome.
What an end.
Okay, be a professional. Time to be a professional now. Philly, pull it together. Be a professional. Supposed to be doing a show here. You troll ourselves.
Yeah, get back on track.
Time now.
Okay.
Time now. Watch this hard pivot. Time now for the Crispy Inbox, presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer. Check this thing out. It's awesome.
Meet the first of its kind, the Ninja Crispy Portable Cooking System. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand. So you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
You know what that was? It just dawned on me. That's what Rosie did to Alberga. Just put him in the Ninja Crispy there really fast. That was the Ninja Crispy brought to you by Jay Rosehill. Who's Morning Take with Nick Alberga. It is an all-in-one system that includes 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is a thermal shock-resistant device and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-size air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container. 7 minutes? That's good for me. Max Crisp. Bake, air fry, and re-crisp with the Ninja Crispy. You can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. Visit their website in the link in the description and stay tuned for your chance to win a free Ninja Crispy for one of our lucky fans. Although I really do think that of anyone here at Daily Faceoff, Nick Alberga deserves one of those for getting just
After that.
placed in the Ninja Crispy by Jay Rosehill. Wasn't even here to defend himself. Like, that's the thing. Wasn't even here to swing back or block a punt. Nothing. Just Rosehill just dumping him in the Ninja Crispy and then just calling it a day. Anyhow, what's up in the Crispy inbox? What do we got?
Okay. So this one came, I put it out earlier today and asked people at the sheet at thenationnetwork.com is our email to send in emails and questions. This one came in from Steven. Dear Jeff and Zach, what is your favorite moment where someone played a prank on the league? Think of the 1974 Buffalo Sabres and how they drafted Taro Sugimoto, a person who never existed. Love the show. Go Caps, go Bears, and go Stingrays, and go Red Deer Rebels. Steve.
Wow, all over. So Stingrays, that's the ECHL affiliate with the Washington Capitals, Hershey Bears, the AHL affiliate, and Red Deer Rebels.
And yeah.
Maybe Steven's a Cap fan from Red Deer. Man, I had a great time in Red Deer. Oh, I had a great time in Red Deer with the Memorial Cup. I spent a night, and he must have been just so bored of me, with at the Holiday Inn bar with Tim Hunter, who was one of my favorite players in the 80s with the Calgary Flames. God, was he ever tough. Tim Hunter, by the way, sidetrack on the story here. A quick story before we get to the email. Tim Hunter was, in a lot of ways, the guy that ruined it for everybody in the NHL. And you know how he ruined it, Zach? Tim Hunter would show up for training camp, torn up like a bad report card. You could light matches off of Tim Hunter. And this was the era where a guy, like, off-season training was like, so what'd you do in the off-season? I fished. And they would show up and have to work off the boiler. Tim Hunter showed up, like, in whippy shape. Amazing. And all the guys were like, fuck, Tim, you're making us all look really bad. Hunter was, like, in incredible shape. He's the guy that wrecked it for all the other players. Because then coaches would come in. Oh, look at Tim. Look at Tim's done. Look at Timmy Hunter there.
I've heard stories on Overdrive with Noodles and O-Dog talking about how guys used to show up to camp. And then
with the boilers?
Some of the funniest ones, I heard, they were talking about, basically the off-season training, how they would get ready for camp is a week before camp. They would just stop drinking beer or smoking cigarettes. Yeah. And Noodles told one, he had a guy who was, doing a fit shake. So he would just drink a shake for every day for a week leading up to camp, and that was his training. And it's just you hear about that, and then these guys now, and they take 1 week off, and then they're back on the ice. It's very different.
So in Toronto, here's a story for your Leafs Nation. In Toronto, when John Brophy was the coach, Ally Afraidy, who, by the way, should have been one of the best defensemen of all time. He had everything. He could shoot, he could skate, he had size, all of it. So Ally Afraidy had a couple of LBs after the summer. John Brophy, legendary tough Toronto Maple Leafs coach, wouldn't even let him take his equipment off after the skate and got him on the bike for two-a-day workouts in his hockey gear. Al quit during training camp, went home to Michigan. Jeff Jackson, who's now the CEO of the Edmonton Oilers, who was on the Maple Leafs then, had to drive to his home. Was he Dearborn? I think Dearborn, Michigan. Had to drive to Dearborn, Michigan to go get Al to bring him back to Toronto Maple Leafs training camp. Because Brophy was they finished their skate, Al could take off his skates and then had to get on the bike in his gear. Jack's had to go
My
pick him
God.
up. Anyway, lovely trying to make believe stories from the past. What was the question again? Oh, yeah. Jokes on the league. So
Pranks.
Taro Tsujimoto, that is Punchy. I'm like Buffalo Sabres, so I was tired of how long the draft was taking. So they drafted Taro Tsujimoto from the Tokyo Katanas. Katana, by the way, is Japanese for sword. Get it? Sabres, sword, totally fictitious.
Yep.
You still see signs for Taro Tsujimoto at Buffalo Sabres games. Even got, I think Upper Deck made a card for him. There is a Taro, I think it was Upper Deck. Upper Deck made a Taro Tsujimoto card that does exist. Anyhow, my favorite about that one, and I mentioned drunk general managers a second ago when we kicked off the program. So after the Eric Lindros trade, now the Eric Lindros trade had to be arbitrated by someone by the name of Larry Bertuzzi, who is the arbitrator, because both the Rangers and the Philadelphia Flyers both had their trades accepted by the Quebec Nordiques for Eric Lindros. And it was up to the arbitrator to decide who actually got in first and who should get Eric Lindros. And of course, Larry Bertuzzi ruled that it was the Philadelphia Flyers. So after that, the NHL came up with something that still exists to this day, and that is the trade call. So the way that the trade call worked was, this is brand new in the NHL, and you can remember the people that were running various teams in the NHL, so none of this will surprise you. What used to happen to consummate a deal is both general managers had to call a centralized number, okay? And they would leave a message with details of a trade. And then the other general manager would call, leave the details of the trade. If both sides matched up, we had a deal. And that's how trades were made. It became the trade call. And every manager had this number in their phone book, in their hip pocket, maybe out in their hip pocket at a bar where they maybe had a couple of drinks. These guys would all take turns impersonating Ron Caron of the St. Louis Blues, making trades. So they would all put on the Ron Caron voice there and talk about Ron Caron, GM of the St. Louis Blues. We want to trade their Brett Hull, and they would pretend to be drunk. Well, they wouldn't pretend to be. They were drunk, pretend to be Ron Caron, and leave up phony calls on the NHL trade line. And the NHL had to step in and say, it's time to grow up, guys. This is a little stupid. I have a lot of white whales that I'm sort of hunting for. I really hope, this would be a great question for Berkey. I really hope that audio of some of these calls exists somewhere.
It would be good.
Would you not
That's
love
also hilarious
to hear drunken, like, Bobby Clark calling up, impersonating Ron Caron, making phony trades in the NHL, and the NHL had to finally step in and say, guys, we're supposed to be professionals here. You're grown men. You're getting drunk, impersonating Ron Caron, and making phone calls and making trades and wasting everybody's time. Can you guys
that's
please?
so funny though.
It's so funny. I know.
Just
when you
imagining
think
the NHL like getting those calls, and then it's like for the first 10, 20 seconds, you're like,
okay, someone's making a trade. Yeah, okay.
Here. Yeah.
And then you're like,
and then you're like, fuck. Again. Get off the fucking phone.
This is how this league operated. Dude, they used to make trades drunk all the time. Frank Mahovlich almost went from Toronto to Chicago for $1 million at the Royal York Hotel.
Yeah. That one you told early on the show, I think.
People getting hammered. They still have the sheet of paper from the Royal York letterhead on it and everything with the trade scribbled out. Then they sobered up in the morning and realized, what have we done? This is how, all I'm saying is, this is how this league used to work. They're much more professional now about everything. You may make the argument that it's not as fun. Okay, that's fine. But that's the way things used to exist here in the National Hockey
Jeff,
League.
there was a question in the chat. I'm curious if you know the answer. I searched it up there when I saw it come through. Sam Shi. Who is the first Asian player to the NHL? Do you know the answer?
Yeah, Larry Kwong. Larry Kwong. We should. You know, I actually want to do. When we get it, I was just talking about this with someone not too long ago about doing like a specialty show, and do maybe we'll do this like when you get to the Stanley Cup final on some of the off days where news is sort of sparse and it just turns into like story time. Maybe I'd really love to do a show on Larry Kwong and maybe get one of his family members as well. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if the Larry Kwong story has been told or has been out there enough. But yes, Larry Kwong. Absolutely. 100%.
I know the first Malaysian-born player.
Who that?
He was my one of my best friends, John Ang. He was drafted in the
Jonathan Ang, who
round
played
by the
Markham.
Panthers.
Did you play Markham Waxers with him? He was drafted.
I didn't play Markham Waxers with him, but he played Markham Waxers, yeah.
So he was drafted by the Florida Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
4th round? Jonathan Ang? Is it 4th or 5th? Somewhere in there, right?
4th round, 94th overall. Yeah.
Still got it, Zach.
Yeah, well, I have like all of his draft hats and like T-shirts and stuff that he gave all the boys after. So,
oh really?
That one's not hard to remember. Yeah,
Jonathan
He's playing in
Ang.
Sweden now.
Buddy, I was on Sakaris and Price earlier today, and the name Sidenny came up, and I'm like, "Ooh, I didn't expect to hear Sidenny." Sidenny, for those that don't know, who was elected in the Hockey Hall of Fame, 1959, was the first player ever to curve a hockey stick. No, it was not Andy Bathgate or Stan Mikita or Bobby Hull. Sorry, hockey fans, you've been lied to your entire lives. Sorry. It was Sidenny. But like I woke up this morning, I'm like, I never thought I'd hear the name Sidenny today. I never thought I heard the same name, Jonathan Ang. But there it is.
Yep.
You know what the lesson in all that is, Zach? Let me tell you.
What?
You know what the key to all this is?
Let's hear it.
Stay alive.
Okay.
Just stay alive, and you'll hear and see some weird shit. And you'll hear some weird stories, and you're going to wake up one day, and someone's going to bring up Sidenny, and then someone's going to bring up Jonathan Ang, and it's all going to be part of your day. And life's just going to carry on, and everything's going to be beautiful. That's my lead you into the weekend on a happy note here. Jonathan Ang and Sidenny were part of my day. Tell me what we're doing next, producer. Put a quarter in me. Let's keep going.
We can get to some of the OV stuff, but quickly I do want to point out, I put in the chat here, what should Jalen Chatfield have been suspended? 52% of the chat says 1 to 2 games, 23% no. 3 to 5 games was 12%, and 5+ games was 14%. I just wanted to say, Jeff, and I'm not sure.
Everybody's
wrong.
wrong.
I know you kind of outlined it with Rosie
None.
there. I think he should have gotten something. I do think he should have got something. And
I'm not
the reason
quick to
is,
suspend. I don't know.
I get it, but the reason is, what's the department called that's handing that suspension out?
The Department
player
of
safety.
Really cool stuff that happens in the NHL.
Right. Player
The
safety.
Department of Player Parties.
That's my issue with it. Player safety. That's the only reason. I'm not going to put up a big stink or make it a big thing. I just think it should have gotten something. And I think it also sends a message to the Washington Capitals in a way here that the league is not going to back them on that and protect them and protect the player in that sense. I don't think it should have been some 5-game suspension, and I don't care that there's no precedent to go back to and look back on. My thing is just you need to kind of make sure you are protecting players' safety, and this was a dangerous incident that is a bad play that should not have happened, and you've now handed out no consequences for it. In my mind, it almost opens the door for it to happen again, or for McElrath to come out next game like Dr. Hook McCracken coming out skating on the ice like that. Like that's my issue with it.
I'm guessing
you got to put some consequence on it.
I'm guessing Grim Reaper addresses next week. Okay, let me play lawyer on you then. Are punches in the face safe, sir, Mr. Phillips?
Yes, no, inherently no. They're not.
Just curious. All right, you're a witness. I understand what you're saying, and I think for a lot of people, part of the weirdness of the conversation anyway is, what are the rules of a fight? Like, that's what we're talking about here, essentially, when it comes right down to it. What are the rules in a fight? Now, some people will tell you there are no rules in a fight, and eye gouging and fish hooking should be fine, or kneeing should be fine, all these types of things. It's a fight after all, and there are no rules. I don't know that we're there. I like to think that we're more evolved as a species, and even as someone engaged in something that contravenes the rules of a sport, there are still some rules, written or otherwise, that bind that event. And I am with you on that one. Like I've told you before, the penalty that I hate the most in the NHL are slew foots. I hate slew foots, and essentially what that was a slew foot.
Yeah.
So but again, it's in the context of a fight. Slew foot while in course of a play in a scrum. Okay, I really like that. I just hate it. Just that is so dirty to me. I don't know what it is, but like as part of a fight. When both guys have agreed we're trying to do bodily harm to one another. Like, there are moments in the game where it can be physical, but you're saying to yourself, and you can justifiably say, I'm not trying to do this. You're not trying to hurt someone. But in a fight, you are trying to hurt someone. And when both people throw their gloves off and engage, that's them saying, I'm trying to hurt you. You are going to try to hurt me. So the rules for like a normal slew foot over the course of the game might not necessarily apply during a fight. I might be in the minority on this. I get that. I get it. But that is how I feel on this warm Friday afternoon in southwestern Ontario.
And I understand that. And I understand we're talking about the fight, and then this is where it gets iffy, and Rosie did bring that up. I do get it. I just... there is an understanding between the guys entering the fight about what is about to happen, the officials on the ice who are officiating, let's say in that instance, the fight and monitoring it, and the league. Everyone knows, the fans in attendance. That's the other thing. Like you talk about, the skates and getting cut. What are the people in attendance who are going to see that?
Oh, I know.
This is not something we want to talk about, but what happens if McMichael's head hits the ice last night?
Ken Campbell, this is like, I know he got roasted for it, but I know where Ken's coming from on this one. Ken Campbell of the Hockey News, longtime writer, put out the tweet after the fight. He said, "Look, if this continues, like someone is going to die." Just to be blunt, and he's right. Like we saw it with Bill Masterton, right? That's why we have that award. Someone will die. I don't disagree with him. And he said, like, look, maybe tomorrow, maybe 20 years, but it will happen. What are we going to do afterwards? Like, we've had this discussion around helmets, right? Like, once upon a time, it wasn't that long ago, where the mandate for officials is as soon as a helmet came off, you had to break up the fight. Or should there be an unwritten rule that when a helmet comes off, both guys stop automatically? You put it to the honor system and say, guys, you got to stop. I don't know. Or do you just put cages on everybody and say, you can't fight now?
Done. Yeah.
That undoes fighting right away. And you got to keep them on. I don't know.
I just say if I'm McMichael, if I'm the Washington Capitals, I'm pretty pissed. And if somebody takes a run at Chatfield and does something nuts, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't happen.
Does his name rhyme with Tom Wilson?
But
does the name rhyme with Tom Wilson next week?
Yeah, it might. It might.
All right.
It might.
We got a few things to get to here. Notably, the games tonight, and we have a significant one that our friends at FanDuel can actually do some editorial around. The Sheet, powered by FanDuel, home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. Proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. That is our friends and partners on this program at FanDuel. There are 3 games. Let me get through the janitorial part of this, then we can bracket, the big one for tonight. The Carolina Hurricanes face off against the Detroit Red Wings. The return of Elmer Soderblom. You know how I feel about him. I'm still marveling at that Braden McNabb thing from a few weeks ago when McNabb took a run at him and he just went, huh? Pyotr Kochetkov gets the start in this one for the Carolina Hurricanes. Minnesota faces off against the Islanders at UBS. Philip Gustafsson face off against Ilya Sorokin. Mayfield in, Boqvist out. Updates happening around the clock at our daily Faceoff Fantasy Twitter X feed. Can Ovechkin do this? Washington Capitals are at home facing off against the Chicago Blackhawks. Alex Ovechkin is 3 away from the record. Spencer Knight is your goalie tonight for the Chicago Blackhawks. Spencer Knight, we're looking at you. Have you had a look at the Chicago Blackhawks? Hang on, have you looked at that blue line?
Oh, yeah.
Alex Vlasic, who I like a lot. Sam Rinzel. Artyom Levshinov. Wyatt Kaiser. Kevin Korchinski. Do you see a theme here? And Connor Murphy. The grizzled vet of the bunch.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of Rinzel, Levshinov, Kaiser, Korchinski in there. For a guy that's 3 goals away from the record. Does it happen? Dramatic pause. Tonight. Zach Phillips.
So I've looked into this heavily. I've got some fun stuff for you to dig into all of these things.
Okay.
So here's the first thing I'll throw out. So FanDuel has minus 145 anytime goal score for Ovechkin tonight.
Okay.
Just one. I feel like as we get closer to game time, that's going to move out further, minus 150, 55, 60 plus, whatever, because people are just going to be betting into this thing like crazy. Now, he was plus 2,000 to get a hat trick tonight, which would do it. Mm-hmm. I also started looking into some other stuff FanDuel has, Jeff, so this is where we can start to have some fun, okay?
What do you got?
So, Alex Ovechkin to score his 895th career goal during the season, break Gretzky's record, is minus 480, yes. So everyone assumes he's going to do it. Ovechkin to score his 894th career regular season goal in 1,487 regular season games or fewer, which would break Wayne's record and be less games than him, plus 130. So people are assuming that he would do that, which would be now in the next 2 games he would have to do it. There's other stuff I started to look at in this, okay?
Okay.
So you and I have had the conversation. You specifically have been pushing this about what does he do on the empty net? Does he score on the empty net? I'm going to throw this out there, and I want people in the chat to weigh in on what they think. I started thinking, could he do that tonight against Chicago? I don't think he could do it on an empty net against Chicago. Sorry, Chicago, but I don't feel like they are going to stay tight enough in this one against the Capitals, especially after what just happened to them the other night against the Sabres. They're not going to want to have that run back, and they're going to want to tighten things up. They might go into this game against Chicago tonight and just thump them. So I don't think the empty net possibility is there. If he's going to do it, he's got to do it 3 straight past the goaltender. Well, for him to score an empty net goal on the record breaker, it is plus 415, Jeff. Plus 415, about 4-1 for him to do it on an empty net, which I think means he's got to do it not in tonight's game.
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good point. Because I don't think this one's going to necessarily be close. I mean, they were close against Colorado the other night, but I think Colorado kind of went in there. Colorado kind of went in there and went like, "This one's a layup." End of the season, we got this. I don't think we saw the best of Colorado that night, but I think you're going to see the Capitals throw everything at the Hawks. So you know what, then? Spencer Knight could make history.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to have 64 saves tonight.
Screw you, Ron Tugnut. We got a new record holder here.
Yeah. Ovi's going to have 13 shots on goal.
He's just going to keep shooting till his shoulders fall off tonight. That's what I think. That's what I think we're looking at. Well, that'll be an interesting one. So we'll be eyes open wide on that one. Really quick before I wrap up, your weekend, you got a big busy Saturday. Leafs facing off against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Man, I feel so bad for Columbus. They were so close for so long, and in it and out and in and out. And listen, like Montreal's running with this thing. Montreal's such a fun story, but I really wanted Columbus to make it in too. Anyway, Leafs Columbus. What are you looking for tomorrow?
I'm looking for them to bounce back from whatever the hell games they've played against Columbus earlier this season. That's what I'm looking for at this point, because they have laid 2 stinkers, and both of which, Jeff, both times they laid stinkers to Columbus came off of good games from the Maple Leafs. There was the one against Tampa earlier, the prime night, and then they lost 6-2 the next night. I can't remember who it was the last time, but then they lost like 5-1 to Columbus off that one. Just, you played a good game against Florida. We don't need to follow it up with a stinker. Let's get points, let's get wins, and let's not have a post-game show that people are tuning into and calling into, just going nuts on this team for a loss to these guys.
Well, they've never lost any. They've never lost any high-profile games against the Columbus Blue Jackets in the last few years. So you can probably park that bubble talk.
No.
J-Rock brings up a great point. I want to end on this one. What if Ovi gets the hat trick and the Caps lose the game? I would love it. J-Rock, that's a great question. I would love it just to hear Ovechkin say, yeah, but we really needed those 2 points. I don't want to talk about my goals. I want to talk about the team. You know, the main thing is that we didn't win that game.
Yeah, but we lost.
Just because so much of it is a performance, right? Like, see, with all the players, like after every loss, okay, here comes this performance, and the performance after the loss is, hangdog face, all of it, I was squandered the 2 points, doesn't matter, but, you broke the Wayne Gretzky record, like, all time, been waiting for this forever. Oh, we really needed those 2 points. This game isn't about me. This Wayne, Gary, go get back. Like, we didn't get the 2 point. I can't celebrate. I'm just gonna go home here. That's what I want to see. I want to see the performance after the performance interviews after the loss. Oh, well, those 2 points are important, heading into the playoffs. Blah, 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 blah. That's what I want.
Yeah, that in the locker room being asked about it, and they lost in overtime, but Ovi scored the tying goal to send it there or something. Like, it's 5-4 loss in overtime. Yeah. He scores the goal. That's it. I don't
want to talk about the goals. I don't want to talk about what I did out there. I want to talk about the team.
It's like, dude,
J-Rock, great idea. Chat's awesome. All right, I got to punt. That was a lot of fun. Thanks to Jay Rosehill for stopping by. I'll tell you, man, I'm going to be like the first time that Philly heard civilians come out of Brian Burke's mouth. I'm going to be laughing at Rosie, the 2 people for Alberga, for a long, long time. And if I know anything about Zach Phillips, I know that's going to be one of the promos. I'm just saying. Thanks to everybody in the chat. As always, if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform and you get a chance to watch the show live, hop in the chat because it's awesome. Everybody here is so fantastic. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for your attention. Enjoy your weekend. We are back on Monday at 3 o'clock Eastern. Morning Cup of Hockey returns Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern. So check that out. DFO Live runs at noon. Okay? 2 people. Take that special person in your life who you love. We all know like that one person who you say to yourself, God, I love you, but how do you get through a day? Your new nickname for that person is 2 people. Our gift from everybody here at the Sheet to you. Enjoy it. Have a great weekend. We're back on Monday. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.